Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to Slate's edition Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called The Wave in the Window, written by FarmWitch4275. Log, scanning technician Thraxaran Loric of Clan Alarain. Day 437 of year 88 BY. I am not here to supply a system log. There is nothing to report, but what I have said every day for the last 5 cycles. We are alone. I don't mean to be a bad vibe here, but it's true. We've explored a full quarter of our galaxy thus far, and we haven't even found ruins or remains. No shipwreckage, no damaged cities, no dead worlds with remains, or even living worlds with anything but basic animal life. Nothing. I have visited, explored, and catalogued over 2,000 star systems since I started this job. I won't tell you any others of this, of course, but I have already lost hope. The recruitment ads all said that we would meet new species and explore fantastical places and all that other crap. True, I've seen things with my own eyes that I could never have imagined. That methane world with giant worms for another. But so far, 2,000 systems, and I've seen no sign of life other than the kind that has been slowly training from my own reflection and that of the crew around me. The captain and master of exploration have both noticed the lack of enthusiasm that has overcome us these last few months. The tension is high, and mating season is barely 6 months away, which will make things worse. Unless we find something to focus on, I doubt this mission will last much longer. Log of scanning technician Thraxaran Loric of Clan Alarain. Day 489 of year 88 BY. There was a short burst of excitement today. We came across a Class 8 Deathworld, barely habitable, but alive. The entire planet's surface was saturated in flora and fauna of every kind, extremely aggressive, predatory, and all belonging to a very intricate food chain and evolutionary line. Massive 6-legged beasts, the size of mountains, roamed the landscape, high above forests of toxic mushrooms and gigantic caustic plants. A 3-tiered system of life, the giants on top, the caustic flora at the bottom, and the fauna living on the giant creatures in the middle. The giant creatures eat the giant mushrooms. The giant mushrooms live off the detritus and mush left behind by the giant creatures. The middle ecosystem feeds into this. The giant creatures feed off the detritus and nutrients of the constant war going on their backs. Corpses and feed that can't stay up is consumed when it hits the forest floor. It is, indeed, an extremely intricate and beautiful system to watch, but not what we were looking for. At first we thought that it was a sign of civilization, but no. The giants' flatbacks had small rocks that looked like huts, but those were just rocks and plants that creatures hid in or used as caves. I have a small spark of hope snuffed out further investigation. It's an entirely primal world, driven by survival, and nothing else. A beautiful place, to be certain, definitely worthy of exploration, but nothing of real note. We catalogued it, put a beacon down to secure it for later use, and moved on. Log of scanning technician Thraxaran Loric of Clan Alarain, Day 561 of year 88 BY. Nearly the new year, and the ship is gearing up for upcoming celebrations. Several new discoveries kept us busy during mating season, so only a few new pups were added to the ship's roster. The mission continues, as usual. Besides the absent-minded malaise of busy work and ship maintenance, there wasn't much to speak of in terms of activity. No background radiation, no radio transmissions, nothing really of note to care about. Log ends. Log of scanning technician Thraxaran Loric of Clan Alarain, Day 2 of year 89 BY. The rest of the ship is under automated response at the moment, owing to the fact that most of the crew is blasted out of their minds on the captain's special brew for the New Year's celebrations. I, however, am frantic. I have to write this down between sensor readings before I forget. I'm not sure if it was the booze or FTL hallucination. I saw it. We were in a hyperlane, heading to our next destination, stars flying by, dust impacting the shields and vaporizing. Then, slowly, from left to right, a window appeared. From that window, I saw a creature. Bipedal, mammalian, tall, predatory, with front-facing eyes and 5 digits and 2 arms. It was holding a drinks receptacle. It obviously saw me. I saw it. It stopped mid-sip and looked at me, staring me straight in the face. It looked into its cup and then at me. It raised a hand and shook it from left to right. It curled its lips up and showed its teeth. It was a smile that some predatory or mammalian creatures use to communicate peaceful intent. I raised my paw, shook it in the same way, and stood there dumbfounded for what seemed eternity. Clearly sapient, spacefaring life. The ship it was in must have been enormous, many times the size of our exploration craft. It was also faster than us, despite the size. I still have no idea if it was a fluke of FTL hallucination or booze, maybe a combination of both, considering how it seemed to be so real. Since it uses the same system to travel, FTL hyperlanes, I think maybe I can trace it and find where it's going. Log ends. The hangover from this will be pure torture. Log of scanning technician Thraxaran Lorik of Clan Alarain, day 9 of year 89 BY. I was always a lightweight. It took me a solid week for the world to stop spinning before I could get back to normal enough to work again. Apparently my childish gabbing about a smile that sharp teeth was very amusing to the rest of the crew. I am only now starting to recall the logs and try to trace trajectories, if they even exist. I'm sure it was a hallucination or a drunk fit of some kind, but I'll investigate anyways, as it is my job. I haven't told anyone else about it, save for my drunken rambling. As soon as I'm done with this log, I'll get started. Log of scanning technician Thraxaran Lorik of Clan Alarain, day 12 of year 89 BY. It wasn't a hallucination. I have something. It's faint, but there. Hyperlanes leave a residue behind when a ship passes through them, due to the fact space isn't a complete void. It contains microparticles, dust and gas, and consequently every ship that passes through a hyperlane leaves a sort of tunnel behind them that is made when they fly through the debris. The debris, due to gravity and physics, eventually recongeals back to normal. With help from the navigations officer, we were able to create a system that tracked this tunnel. It used the density of the surrounding debris and gases as a measurement, and we were able to create a form of software to model and trace its direction. The density of the surrounding gas versus the density of the tunnel gave us an evidence that we needed, and just like that, we found it. A broad spectrum scan with a calculation concluded gave us a full reading of the star system's FTL gravity well. And there it was. Due to the size of the damn ship, even a week later, there was still a trace. Small, but it was a trace. A small tunnel, heading in one direction, with traces of a very potent energy signature. It was now my job to convince the captain and crew that my drunken rambling wasn't in fact drunken rambling, but was me drunk, but seeing a thing that actually existed. Log ends. I have hope again. Log of scanning technician Thraxaran Lorik of Clan Alarain, day 17 of year 89 BY. After a lot of bitching, moaning, and blackmail, I convinced the captain to change course to follow the FTL tunnel trace we found. We are just about to start FTL jump procedures. I hope I was right. It's lonely. Log 1 of scanning technician Thraxaran Lorik of Clan Alarain, day 19 of year 89 BY. We jumped as normal. 2 days of FTL travel later, we entered a system saturated in comms buoys, network cabling, and satellite coverage. More importantly, it was still active and not built by us. The entire crew burst into celebration. Everyone began to frantically work and type and speak. The entire ship became a massive hive of work, toil, and tears for the next few hours. The nav officer and I worked to trace the FTL tunnels, and there were thousands of them. The system was saturated in FTL traces and energy signatures that made us a bit scared. Before we could tell the captain about this fact, it appeared. Bigger than any ship we ever built by 4 times at minimum, a super titan by our standards and armed to the absolute teeth. Every inch of that damned thing was covered in weaponry. Some of the cannons were bigger than our cruiser. On one hand, we were not alone. On the other hand, what kind of warmongering barbarians did we find that they have such large ships and so many guns? We didn't get any chance to do anything about it or retreat as the beast aimed its nose at us. A message came through, and the ship's AI screamed at us. A voice speaking unintelligible garbage squealed at us through the radio. We knew that it was a warning and sent our translation unit into complete overdrive. We collectively crapped ourselves again, as by the time we had a message translated, the damn behemoth was sitting right on top of us. Massively armed, massively sized, and massively fast. What abominations had we discovered? We finally translated the message. Attention, unidentified vessel. You are entering a border of an active combat zone. Provide identification and reply, or we will open fire. We sent a simple reply back, followed by a biological data set. The captain chose to take no chances, and, along with our message, sent a full library of information relating to biology and language. We are an exploration ship from the kingdoms of High Soren. We come in peace. We are sending you translation data and biological data. Please hold your fire. We waited a few seconds and held our breath, again collectively crapping ourselves as the behemoth's guns activated and aimed at us. "Cut your engines now!" came the angered reply. We all exchanged glances of terror and concern. Some of us even gave a final embrace as we prepared for the end. The captain nodded and shut the ship's reactor down. The engines flamed out, and we resigned ourselves to our fate. The giant ship then pulled a stable turn that would have sheared any of our ships in half, and presented a gaping maw of its side-mounted hangar bay. 3 craft came out of it, latched onto us, and dragged us inside the hangar. It was massive. From hope to terror. Ancestors. I'm sorry. Log 2 of scanning technician Thraxaran Lorik of Clan Alarain. Day 19 of year 89 BY. Lights all around us. Those windows could clearly see the interior hangar was enormous and heavily armed in and out. Hanging in that hangar were several dozen fighter and bomber craft, along with 2 heavily armed smaller ships on par with ours. Our ship clunked and swayed as we adjusted to the hefty gravitational pull they used here, all of us finding it hard to stand up straight. I looked out and saw a huge number of them, 6, maybe 700, all wearing heavy armor, carrying nasty-looking firearms and lined up for inspection. Some of them hiding behind barriers, carrying even nastier-looking guns. They were ready for war, and we walked right into it. The captain stood from his chair, stoic and calm in the face of terror. He headed downstairs to the ship, past cowering families and ready security officers. The ramp lowered, and he walked out, his paw pads making subtle pats as he moved. Log of Ship Captain Chakan Dor Loren of Clan Barak, Day 19 of year 89 BY. I moved down the ramp, holding my head high, not willing to give an inch to these creatures. If this was my last day, I would make sure the story would be told for millennia to come. I will give them a fight worth an entry in the history books. I heard a large gasp of shock from the crowd as my paws hit the cold floor of their huge ship's hangar. The creature that greeted me was slightly taller than I was. I was not amused at this provocation, and I was clearly showing my teeth at him, my jowls chattering. He smiled at me. "Well, hi. Welcome aboard the USS Vengeance. Sorry for the, aggressive accommodations, but we're in an active war zone. We had to take some drastic steps." My translator made sense of his flapping mouth parts. We held up a hand and waited. Tentatively, I grabbed it and shook it back. "What in the name of the clan was that display?" I asked. "Yeah, sorry. We will offer proper apologies in due time and make proper arrangements. We got your bioscan data and comms data, and figured, non-human. That's us, by the way, humans. Pleasure to finally meet someone else in the universe, though I wish it was under better circumstances. We had to take drastic action to bring you aboard as fast as possible in case, well, let's not go there," he replied again, smiling big. "You said war zone?" I asked again. "Corpo wars. Greedy idiots fighting over riches and wealth with armies and clones and machines. People like us are here to guard the FTL lanes and highways until the war becomes too expensive and they eventually go away. Just needed to make sure you don't get hurt. You'll be inside our hangar bay until we are in neutral space. Sorry, but that's the rules. Human or not, I have to follow them," he replied, waving his hand in an odd pattern. The soldiers around seemed to understand his odd gesture and dispersed, leaving us alone in the hangar bay for a while longer. My own troops slowly trickled out, still carrying their own weapons. "I see. Well, I understand that. Well, I'm a diplomat here officially. We will do this properly. I need to calm my crew down first." "That's fine. Any fuel you need or any food supply you want, we are happy to oblige. I also ordered contact archives to be collated and sent to your systems. For exchange. Should be easy for you to work with that data. We can work something out. But we're engaging FTL procs at the moment. We'll be in neutral space in the next hour or so. Should you get in touch with actual people to talk to?" He replied. "Very good, then I need to calm down. This whole situation is very strange. Stressful. I need to cool off," I said, wiping a bead of sweat from out of my fur. "Can I do something first, though? Just one thing. It's not serious. I need to see something," he said. Okay. So long as you aren't going to dissect me or anything," I replied with a brow raised. He simply smiled back and reached into a pouch, showing me a brightly colored yellow ball. He squeezed it, and it made an incredibly tantalizing squeak noise. Images of my childhood flashed in front of me. My ears perked up, my tail wagged, and I lost all senses as he threw the ball. Instinct took over, and with careless abandon, myself and 2 others charged after the furry yellow sphere. I got into a scuffle with the other 2 and returned to the human in charge, who was unable to wipe a huge smile off his face. I had the ball in my mouth, absent-mindedly squeaking it as I chomped down on it. I suddenly realized what a fool I'd made of myself and hit the ball behind me, mildly embarrassed at my display. I cleared my throat and tried to keep my composure stable. Right, I'm keeping this, but thank you for the escort. See you, later. As I walked back into the ship, I caught him saying something. Sapient space dogs, our prayers have been answered. Not only are we not alone, they like squeaky balls and are adorable floof to boot. Hallelujah! Thank the gods. Diplomatic log of UN Security Council, January 17th, 11:37 a.m. local, year 2557. We have completed first contact procedures with the Canis sapiens majoris, known as the Kingdoms of High Soren, colloquially termed sapient space dogs. They are a race of spacefaring humanoid canines with a mixed structure of both feudal monarchy and basic democracy, leaving royalty to form councils that vote on matters. Each planet has its own king or queen. They have appearance similar to border collies, German shepherds, and huskies, tails and ears and puff included. The public is so enamored with them, we've had to increase security whenever they visit. Thus far, we have confiscated 2,835 squeaky balls, toys, and other such items from staffers and civilians within the last month. The public is more concerned with the fact that they are sapient species than they are anything else. So we have no issues on that front. There are no concerns with any potential conflicts arising, as their main planetary operations seem to be far from us. Even so, their military strength doesn't even try to compare. But we are more interested in peace anyway. No territorial disputes will come for a long time. When it comes to a certain aspect of human life, ergo our dogs, they seemed oddly okay with it. Genetic testing has them as far away from our dogs as possible, and they too seem enamored with the animals as we are. There was, however, an instinct where an alien ambassador and one of our staffers' dogs got into a bit of a fight over a large rubber bone toy. That was hilarious. We have come to the conclusion that following activities will be fruitful. We will get along just fine. But, as per usual, some rules have been put in paper to prevent any diplomatic incidents, and internet safety protocols have been revised. The aliens have given us access to their exploration data, and the sheer amount of it has the entire exploration and settlement community in an uproar, demanding access and rights to various Deathworlds and unique planets they have access to. Ambassadors and traders will be busy for decades to come with this data. The aliens themselves don't seem to have our sense of adventure, so they don't seem to care if we lowball them with our offers of these planets. We are going to be busy for a long time. End of story. Story number 2, Ovinophobia, or Why We Actually Had to Acknowledge the Welsh, written by FarmWitch4275. London, July 14th, 1917. General Melchett had never faced a staggering quantity of paperwork in his entire life. His aide, Captain Barding, was scrambling desperately to try and sign and sort the ever-increasing pile of folders, files, and documents. The door opened, both men groaning, as Captain Bolcarda walked into the room, an angry scowl on his face as he plopped yet another pile of paperwork on the floor. "God, I can't do this any more," Melchett yelled out in anguish. "I know, sir. Soldier on. We can't stop now. We honestly can't afford to," Barding said meekly from behind his mountain of papers. "It is the most ridiculous thing that I have ever seen since someone pointed at something and said, 'That's bloody ridiculous,'" Bolcarda said with an annoyed tone. "Oh, hello, Bolcarda. How many more pallets of documents have we left?" Melchett asked. 41, including some gifts from the Garanians, the Remori, and the Akkadi, and a few, let's call them ritual sacrifices from the Wahandai. I pointed them all towards the canteen instead of the gas chamber. They weren't expecting it," Bolcarda replied in annoyance. "How did we come to this?" Melchett yelled out. "I mean, look at this. 27 notices of unconditional surrender, 37 notices of conditional surrender, 41 requests to become vassals, and even this. What is this one, Bolcarda?" "It's a breeding request form, sir," he replied. "Indeed it is. This is absurd. I can't deal with this," Melchett said. "Unfortunately, sir, it is our duty to sort through this stuff. Sort the unofficial stuff from the official stuff. Parliament is in a full closed panic session at the moment, Captain Barning said as he finished one pile of papers. What are the Americans up to, and the Russians? Narrated asked. Well, near as I can tell, the Americans are taking full advantage of the situation and are changing their mascots. It's gone from Eagles to Barnyard Open House over there. They've already sent up a dozen more ambassadors in time it's taken up for this nonsense to start. As for the Russians, well, they're being Russian. Revolution is in full swing and everyone who can speak to the aliens is being shot, so not much going on there, Bolcarter said. So basically the same as usual. Well, at least that's helpful, Narrated said. Two more men walked in, depositing yet more paperwork in the room. Daldridge, George, how goes the sorting? Bolcarter said. Going pretty well, sir. Got half of the division trying to sort through it all, Daldridge's hefty Cockney accent said as he hefted some papers into the corner. My God, this is exciting, George said, with his proudly puffed out his chest. What is exciting about it exactly, George? Is it the concept that we as a species barely had the ability to manage our own nations and suddenly we have an entire galaxy to care for? Or is it the mountain of paperwork we have to do instead of fighting a war? Speaking of, weren't we supposed to be doing that? Last I recall, Field Marshal Gauge was still trying to move his strings cabinet 6 inches closer to Berlin, Bolcarter replied with annoyance. Well, that's the excitement, sir. The war's been called off, George said. Seriously? Bolcarter asked with a raised brow. Oh, indubitably, Bolcarter. Soon as we got first contact, the entire front line was effectively abandoned on all sides. Everybody just gave up and went home to hear what the aliens wanted to say, Barling replied as he handed some papers to Narrated. God, well, at least that's over. Doubt we'll start this shit again. So what now? Should I grab a spade and start filling in the trench line again? Bolcarter asked. We can't let the engineering corps return no man's land to ya. Yes, man's land, I suppose. We can sort that out when this mess is fixed, Narrated said, gesturing to his paperwork. Permission to speak, sir, Daldridge said. Granted, Private, with all due sense of dread, Bolcarter said. So I was thinking, right, a month ago, there wasn't aliens everywhere, right? And now we does have aliens everywhere, right? And we was fighting, right? And now we isn't fighting, right? So, what I want to know is, how do we get from one case of affairs to the other case of affairs? Daldridge said. Everyone just stared at him for a minute. Do you mean, how did this all start? Bolcarter asked. Daldridge stared blankly for a moment, smiled and said, Yeah! Well, Daldridge, it happened because we live in a galaxy made of people that have genetically crippling case of Ovinophobia, Bolcarter replied. Ovinophobia, sir? Sounds like someone scared of ovals. Who'd be scared of ovals? Not cubes. That I can understand, George replied in earnest. Well, yes, I do say the cubes are rather terrifying, but ovals seems a bit Frenchy to me, Narrated replied. No, that's Ovinophobia. It means one is scared of anything of the genus Ovis, Barling said. Genus Ovis sounds pretty scary, doesn't it? George replied. Sheep, you idiots! Sheep! The aliens are scared of sheep, Bolcarter said in an angry tone. Bolcarter leaned against the tower of paperwork near the wall. The aliens are scared of sheep. Of all things, sheep, Narrated asked. Near as I can tell, in their far-flung history of the ancient galactic races, there lived a species called the Haberus, Bolcarter said. Oh, a story. I love these, George said, and he and Daldridge settled into a spot to listen. Bolcarter took a deep, frustrated breath and began. According to the information that we've been able to get from our new vassal states, deep in the ancient history of the galaxy, there lived a great scourge known as the Haberus, a herbivorous race of creatures that dealt upon the galaxy great misery in the form of slavery, torture, military conquest, and blah, blah, blah. These creatures were apparently so adept at combat and military warfare, and so very good at the whole subjugation thing, they controlled the full quarter of the galaxy, much like the British Empire as of now. So they are like Space British, only worse, Daldridge said. I guess you can say that, but we aren't quite as brutal. Sure, we shot people and nicked their countries, but at least we did it with dignity. Anyway, eventually some of the galaxy's less proficient denizens got really annoyed with the constant attacks and formed a coalition in order to deal with them. It took him 1,000 years of traumatizing war to finally force the Haberans into extinction and release the galaxy from their influence. Only it didn't work, Buckleharder said. What do you mean it didn't work, Buckleharder? They won, didn't they? Narrated said. Well, sort of. They got rid of the problem, but not the phantom they left behind. See, over 1,000 years of war, 1,000 years of military recruitment, 1,000 years of propaganda, and 1,000 years of trauma from invasions had left a mark on the race's existence, on their very soul, like a boil on Doldrich's right cheek. That won't ever go away, no matter how much soap you use, Buckharder said. That relates to our present amount in the paperwork, how? Naltrit asked. Simple. They have done themselves into a hatred of these enemies so deeply that it became a factor in the entire galaxy's collective genetic spectrum. In short, everyone got scared shitless into permanently hating sheep, Buckharder replied. Well, that seems silly. What happened then? Barding asked. Well, sir, the rumor goes that the Valkyrian scouting party was attempting to put in an infiltration team to do the usual things aliens apparently do. Unfortunately for them, they landed in Wales. Odd place to choose to perform any kind of infiltration mission, if you ask me, but that's where they were. Their first port of call was a sheep farm. They apparently panicked at the sight, retreated, and alerted the rest of the galaxy of some kind of threat, Buckharder replied. Are you telling me what I think you're telling me? Barding asked as he peered from behind his wall of papers. Well, let's see then. The scouting party went back to the galaxy and told everyone that their ancient enemy had returned, and several invasion fleets were sent to Earth. Only, they didn't find their ancient enemy. They found a facsimile of their ancient enemy that humanity had apparently domesticated, to the point of using them as both food and clothing source. The shock and ridiculousness of the situation broke their brains, Buckharder said. Broke their brains? How, sir? Doldrich asked, clearly still confused. Well, the Ovinophobia they developed as a result made them so completely scared shitless that they went into a near catatonic state when encountering a sheep of any kind. In short, the entire galaxy has a nearly lethal fear of anything mutton or wool, and the sight of the U.S. having no fear at all when near sheep freaked them out even more. It's like us with big spiders or elephants with mice. That's how terrified they are, Buckharder said. So let me get this straight. Ancient aliens had killer sheep, and they hated the killer sheep so much that now when they even see something that resembles sheep, they get terrified to the point of silliness, George asked. Yes, precisely, George. Well done. You got one and right for once. In essence, we, humanity, the silly bastards who were throwing 50,000 men into a meat grinder every week, have basically passed with flying colours, a contest of strength and bravery that we weren't even aware existed. And because we not only passed it, by being near sheep without dropping dead, and more importantly, in their eyes at least, domesticating them and turning them into pets, clothing and food, because we passed, we are now considered the most powerful force in the galaxy, purely because of the fact that we aren't scared shitless at the mention of the word mutton, Buckharder said. So that is why the last 3 weeks of work has been nothing but sorting surrender notices, Naltrit asked with a crooked brow. Yes, sir. The first contact with the aliens was an interesting circumstance, apparently, Barling replied. It was. Tell, Naltrit said. Well, intelligence says the aliens attempted to place infiltrating machines called drones in a barnyard and got the absolute piss scared out of them by a sheep that had wandered into the barn. The local farmer, a Welshman, came in and brought the sheep away. The aliens went into a full-on panic, and the farmer, at least in their eyes, saved them from the sheep. As far as I remember, the farmer then fed the aliens, unknowingly, apparently, mutton-based shepherd's pie. This traumatized the aliens, as they were essentially eating the remnants of their ancient enemy. Panic ensued, and the aliens demanded their own surrender. Barding replied, and shoveled another stack of paperwork onto his desk. That's what pisses me off about this whole thing most, sir, Buckharder said. Oh? It's the fact that the war was suddenly and inexplicably over. It isn't that we suddenly became the controlling empire in a galaxy-wide state when we barely have the resources to manage our own world. It isn't the sudden burden of responsibility that we're about to undertake. And it isn't the sudden inexplicable change of global body politic that is about to happen. No. There's one part about this whole situation that pisses me off more than anything, Buckharder said, with a sigh. And what would that be, sir? Doldrich said. It's the fact that we now have to, whether we like it or not, we have to actually acknowledge the Welsh. Buckharder replied with an angry growl. All the men thought for a second, and then sighed, and said, Bugger! End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.